Yep. Giving away a little bit of that sort of mystique as, I mean, the Centaur's not a bad pick. Queen Tech is going to be able to get some use out of it off, obviously, mobility, strong frontline fighter, but as you were sort of alluding to, now four Zoomers can key in. They know exactly where the Viper's going to be. EgoBoys not really a squad that tries for that position 5 Viper. Actually, I think there's really only maybe one or two teams left in South America that still sort of dips into that strategy. So four Zoomers can pretty much pin the Viper down mid, the Centaur in the off lane. So now they know the matchup that they could potentially exploit here. So like you were saying, I kind of am a little bit surprised that they go for the Centaur at this point. I feel like the support pick for Kara would have been maybe a little sneakier for them to sort of buy more time, but they go in for the Centaur. Four Zoomers respond with that Mars pick for themselves, and unlike EgoBoys, this Mars for Four Zoomers does still have a little bit of mystery around it. Not entirely sure where it's going to go just yet. They could run it mid for Brax. Gunner could still potentially take it into that middle lane.
Yeah, and it feels like the only reason that they did want to pick up that Centaur was because of the picking order. They were afraid if they were able to take Centaur on the four Zoomer side, I'm assuming that's what Ego Boys were fearing. So they take up the Centaur because you want Centaur versus Viper in pretty much every situation. It really inundates the hero. No matter who you ulti, they're going to get saved by the Stampede. So taking the Mars makes complete sense. But now Shadow Demon, a hero that has really been talked about a lot, I think, in a lot of spheres, but not really picked up nearly as much in NA as we've seen. I think this is just the first game we've sort of seen the gauntlet bid thrown, but incredibly good versus Mars. Whoever gets speared immediately gets saved. When they come out, they might take one or two more ticks from that Mars arena, but other than that, it is a very good hero at saving whoever the Mars will decide to go on.
Yeah, you make a good point there. I feel like so many times between us ourselves here casting this event and some of the recent performances as well back on the DPC, there's been a lot of phrases like, the Shadow Demon looks good here, or oh, maybe we'll see the Shadow Demon. SD could be blah, 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 right? But then no one ever actually really takes it. The popularity hasn't quite matched up to, I think, where we have this hero in terms of expectations. So it is nice to see EgoBoys pick it up here, and as you mentioned, it is going to be incredibly valuable defensively to try and save some of these heroes from the potential initiation from that four Zoomer side. Speaking of initiation, though, the Mirana going to come out for them in what I'm assuming will be that secondary support role.
Yeah, that will most likely be Ocean's hero. And it's very similar as we did see the Lena band out to that Lena hero where now you have Arrow. It's a little bit risky for that Viper to ever just AFK hit towers, be up in the front. But now you do have the Shadow Demon to save him if you do end up having a playstyle like that. That SD is going to be pretty much invaluable for your team. But at the same time, there are going to be some issues where maybe there's a situation where Sammy Boy gets that Blink Dagger. I'm assuming we're going to see him build it up this game and then always be looking for that SD. And that's where Queen Tech and the Clockwork are really going to need to sort of keep the chaos going, because if this SD dies, then most likely your Viper is going to die as well.
Right. And Shadow Demon, already not an inherently tanky hero, pretty squishy on that back line, and if the Wraith King comes in with that Mortal Strike crit, he's not going to last all that long. So he is the sort of defensive anchor for EgoBoys, but he's going to need some protecting himself. His positioning will be absolutely vital, and if he does get caught out, as you said, Clock and Centaur are going to have to step up to try and sort of buy him some time. As we move into the final phase of the bans, four Zoomers keyed in on that carry role. They've really been banning out position 1 heroes since just about the start of phase 2, so why stop now? Luna and Sven both going to be taken away. Meanwhile, for EgoBoys, they're fairly certain this Mars is going into the hands of Brax in the offlane, so they'll start banning out some Gunner heroes. Ember Spirit taken away first. One last ban for them to work with here. Okay, Sand King ban. Don't know if that was looked at as a 2 or a 3. We've sort of seen it in both positions from time to time, but not a hero that's really seen a whole lot of, I'd say, attention paid to him to this point in the event, but they will
Well,
ban it
and
out.
really played out as a counter, usually towards the Tiny, so it is a little bit intriguing to see, because I don't think the Sand King would have necessarily wanted to lane up versus that Viper in the mid lane, but that's what the flexibility of the Mars brings, and it looks like it will be a core Mars, unless they swap things around completely, and this is going to end up being a mid Mirana, which it very well could be, but now Ego Boys respond with the Lifestealer, another pretty classic Rises hero. And it's going to be pretty decent this game. There really isn't much to contest with it, and builds pretty decent items versus the Wraith King as well. And yeah, we are going to see Gunner on that Mirana. Wow, that's
Mm,
very different.
all right. That's a little bit exciting. I think last time the Mirana mid was actually being picked up, I think was for, I believe maybe Team Spirit with Toronto Tokyo, sort of playing it up in that CIS region. So popularity in terms of North and South America is maybe not quite where it's been in other regions, but it does work. There is the potential for it. I don't know if we would call it a popular choice, but uh, it is certainly something that can punish teams if they're giving up too much. And Gunner definitely a player who's able to find quite a bit for himself. So we'll see how things play out here, as I believe everyone has selected up their heroes. But in terms of the drafts right now, ET, what are you thinking? I'm sort of leaning towards four Zoomers. The Mirana's still a bit of a question mark, but it feels like they've got themselves in a relatively solid position outside of maybe having to deal with that Lifestealer.
Mirana is definitely a question mark, and we saw the last time Gunner played versus that Viper, he did really, really struggle. And this time around, I sort of look at the rotations that could be made mid with this Mirana, and you really won't have too many unless they really lose track of Husky on this Enchantress. They're going to be able to spot out a lot of these rotations, and I don't think one Icarus dive is going to mean that this Viper is going to fall. Again, it seems like four Zoomers are banking on the fact that the enemy team is going to allow them to farm, and that's where EgoBoys need to prove us wrong. They need to get active out on the map. We need to see Kara making these easy rotations, and you do have pretty much an ungankable mid. Up until that Centaur gets a Blink Dagger, there's really no way to hold him down. You need either Blink Dagger on the Centaur or level 6 on Clock and maybe a pushback, but even then, killing this Mirana is going to be an order of magnitude that EgoBoys need to sort of farm their ways to. But we're going to have to see if that even comes into play, because I feel like for Zoomers, they're just going to farm.
Yeah, we'll see just how much space they can create for themselves. You mentioned Gunner. Going to be hard to take down, but just because you're hard to take down doesn't mean you're going to have much of an impact on those fights. So as you said, Gunner will need to prove himself capable of not just eluding some of that aggression from the other side, but being capable of actually turning around and dishing out significant damage himself. Not entirely sure what the build is going to look like for him. I would assume he's probably going to go at least some degree of sort of right-click damage here, but we could also see an emphasis on the Starstorm, depending on how things play out. But for now, it will remain at least a slight mystery as we are waiting on those bounty runes. 10 seconds away here as Rises is making a bit of a play up the river. I don't really think he's as sneaky as he thinks he is, as Brax is probably going to have some vision on him, so not a whole lot for the Lifestealer to do there. Bounty runes will spawn. It's just going to be a 2-2 split, so whatever the play was for the Lifestealer, kind of meh in terms of the actual results, but he's just going to make his way to the lane. He doesn't really care about whether or not that one plays out for him.
And really, the heroes we need to watch out for most likely are in this top lane, where Tano is going to look for probably that early disruption, trying to lead into that hoof stomp and maybe some body box coming out, or we could see the early shadow poison. And yet again, I don't think we've seen the smoke up to the top lane where we get those two wards down, keeping this Enchantress without a creep for very long. So if Husky is able to get a creep, we could definitely see Tano turned on as well. But still, we have to wait. We do see him scope that disruption, but still, they'd have to get pretty out of position for it to really matter.
And at this instance, Quinteca already used the hoof stomp initially onto Sammy, so that time they get the disruption, but it's really just going to be a little bit annoying, get these illusions to do some extra damage onto Husky, as he's kind of trapped in here for a bit. So that's a little bit more damage than I think he was originally anticipating having to take, but there's really no position that EgoBoys can put themselves in right now to punish that. It's nice to burn through the regen, but Husky should be okay as long as he doesn't sort of get caught out again. And I don't know, if you're Sammy Boy in this lane, you're really not looking for a fight. We see he doesn't even have a point up in the stun right now. The Spirit was skilled up at level 1, so he's just not interested in these engagements. He's going to try to farm up under the tower. Did miss one last hit there due to the tower shots, but other than that, he's just fine. So maybe if Quinteca and Tano get this combo as you sort of described, they could make some plays happen, but for the most part, Sammy Boy should be okay to farm up a bit as Tano goes in for that disruption, creating the illusions once again, but again, this is just going to be a little bit of harassment, nothing significant at this stage, as they're not even really going to catch up to Husky for all that much damage.
And that's really all that their goal is. They want Quinteca to get get that Ring of Health as fast as possible. He's got relatively perfect CS. There's not much that they can do. Sammy Boy was able to snatch that creep wave back, so both laners have their creep waves in basically the same spot once these creeps do start to even out, but it's just a farm fest.
Yeah, not a whole lot of dynamic action going on here so far. Similar scenario playing out over on the other side of the map as well. Rises and Brax just trading last hits. So far, though, Brax is slightly ahead. 9-2 compared to the 7-2 for Rises, but the Lifestealer at this point, how do you really threaten him? He can just hit a point up in that rage eventually, and unless you just catch him sleeping on the job, really, I don't think there's too much in the way of kill potential directly onto him as they go in for that spear, but there's really not a whole lot of follow-up. Brax does have the rebuke coming out now, and they are going to actually try for this. Icarus Dive gets Ocean forward. Rises, though, should be fine. Kara, coming in with the battery assault, will be able to create enough of a distraction to get his teammate back to the tower safely.
And just barely not having enough mana for that second spear, but this is not the best lane for Nyx. You have 10 more base damage on the Mars. You're always able to get at least 2 last hits. And actually, Kara.
Yeah, Kara, this is a little too dicey.
He's just dead.
He's gone. Okay, accepts his fate, walks into the tower. Ocean picks up first blood, and that one felt... well, it felt bad, obviously, but Kara, that's entirely avoidable. Now Brax might go for the spear if he if he lands it. They could find the kill, but he doesn't quite feel confident enough to try for it. Ocean didn't really have the mana. He would have had to Icarus dive forward, and that would have put him underneath the tower as well. So they decide they'll just take the first blood play. Don't want to get too greedy on that one. If that play backfires, then you hand over quite a bit of what you had just gained. So the more prudent play, even if it's maybe not the most exciting one.
Well, and it's incredibly hard. While Kara most likely will be able to get this pull off, it is double stacked, so Ocean will be able to make a rotation for it. Brax is getting quite a lot here, and he has a full Orb of Corrosion completed as well. It just means that Rises has to be even more careful whenever he uses that Rage. He'll just get completely turned on. An 18-second cooldown, you really can't walk up to the wave if that does happen. So right now he's just going to try and farm the small camp, get something out of his lane.
Yeah, looking for... really, at this point, kind of just scraps at the particular moment in time. Last hit-wise, he's starting to fall a little bit further behind compared to his opponents, so something that EgoBoys may want to take some steps to try and address here. Kara will maybe play a little bit more forward in terms of the aggression level, but that's putting him into some trouble. Brax is going to push forward. The spear is here. Do they have a connection, though?
Still
no,
dead.
and they don't even need it. Wow, yeah, no spear necessary. Kara's just gone. Brax will be able to pick up the kill, and this bottom lane is turning into more and more of a concern, really, in the first 5 minutes.
And I don't know what Rises. I'm looking at it right now. It is just boots coming out on the courier. It's really difficult to lane up versus this Mars. He has so much more damage than you just right off the bat, and they really have not skipped a beat. And having this double melee, it really feels like they haven't been able to punish Ocean at all for his positioning. He's been really solid in the lane, and you keep on funneling regen over to Rises just so he can sort of exist here. This Orb of Corrosion is just creating so many problems for them. And Car's trying to get aggressive again, but you can't do this.
Yeah, he's gone again here unless he can pull off some sort of miracle. Brax will
he's just
hold the
dead.
spear, and once again, okay, this time they do use it, but either way, the end result is the same. Kara dead for the 3rd time in the laning stage. We're 5.5 minutes in. Ocean, he got one hit onto it. Not gonna be able to snipe it out though, and now Rises. I mean, he might actually get this. There's not a lot of HP on Ocean, but with Brax coming over, yeah, Rises isn't gonna take the chance, backing himself away. So Ocean able to help get the kill onto Kara. Tries to go for the courier snipe. He doesn't get it, but he's not going to be punished for it either. And really, that's kind of been the general sort of running theme of this game. It's 4 Zoomers making plays and EgoBoys unable to punish.
And even mid lane, finally Gunnar was able to land the arrow on that cart, so his tower isn't going to be under too much siege, but Queen Tekka was able to finish his Vanguard in the top lane, and this tower is most likely just going to die.
Hastrun from Alone is going to get him in for the fight. Gunnar does still have a leap charge available, though, and
Ooh.
he can't quite get that last bit of damage in, so Alone sees the TP's coming and will back himself off, but still has that hasted move speed for a few more seconds, and Gunnar... oh, Gunnar.
Ooh.
Trying to get into the tree line, looking to get himself away. Nice stun from Sammy Boy. The arrow, though, is off the mark.
Oh.
Gunnar... He's dead. The poison attack, DOT will bring him down. Sammy is going to try for the return play, though, and they should... no, they're not going to get it. The final right click will not connect as Tano comes in for the clutch disruption. And Gunnar... I don't know why he doubled back there. He thought he could contribute to the kill. Instead, that arrow misses, and it costs him his own life. That just felt a little bit too greedy. If you hit the arrow, sure, you can help get that kill, but the consequences are way, way too severe to actually go for that play.
I think with 2 stacks, he was just assuming that he was already dead, and it's just very simply this ward. He had the knowledge to make that dive happen, and Alone has already been really working Gunner in this mid lane, and it's a really good cover. You see Sammy Boy TPing to help his mid laner out this early on into the game. He's still working on something. He has an amalgamation of items in his inventory right now, and then just simply Stampede, they kill Brax bottom.
Another kill picked up for them. Ocean at least able to fall back there with the Icarus die, but yeah, we're starting to see EgoBoys feeling a bit more confident in themselves. They gave up the first 3 kills of the match, but that doesn't mean that they can't find plays for themselves here as Kara. This battery assault's going to get a little bit too split up. 2 heroes and a Wild Wing Ripper, but Alone is in for the engagement, throwing out those poison attacks. Husky is starting to drop a little bit low, but I think he's going to be okay after all. He will fall back, and Alone doesn't want to dive that far forward, but now Ocean hits him up with the Fire Spirit, but I don't think this turns into much of anything. Husky's not even going to really continue the chase, so the Viper should simply be able to walk away, and well, a bit of a skirmish there, but not a whole lot coming out of it.
Well, using the Moonlight Shadow is a little bit unfortunate because that's really the best way for Brax to get in on any of these heroes, especially the more mobile ones like the Viper. But in the meantime, if they keep on really leading their Stampedes to these aggressive moves, we saw yesterday when Queen Tekka was on the Centaur, if you keep on having to use Stampede defensively, the hero really doesn't feel great. But in the meantime, he's just had absolute free reign in this top lane, working incredibly fast towards that Blink Dagger. And once he has it, then you have to be so cautious on the Zoomer side because there really is no hero to combat that farm. Nobody else is farming nearly as well as that Centaur.
And a bit of a concern for them moving forward. Right now, though, Zoomers casting their gaze down towards the bottom lane. Rises, though, not going to be easy to bring down. He's got the point up in the Infest now, so as long as there's a creep or a teammate nearby, he could potentially sort of bail himself out. So the Zoomers going to have to be incredibly sort of careful with how they approach this, but they've got 4 heroes down here. They've got to at least make an attempt. Otherwise, this rotation is looking like maybe a bit of a waste of resources as they are inching their way forward, but we see the Phoenix actually already bailing out. He TP'd himself mid, so this is starting to break apart already as that flare will fly overhead. It's heading all the way down bot, though, so the EgoBoys realize that that play's coming. They will back themselves out. Ryze's just TP'd himself mid, and they're going to look to turn this into a fight as they will... Well, they'll stampede their way forward. Ocean, though, nice play with the Icarus to get himself away. That does leave, though, that tier 1 tower vulnerable to attack.
And it looks like they're going to trade tower for tower, but again, this does favor EgoBoys still. You're having to use your Stampede. There's no really big level 6s on the Zoomer side yet, aside from that Mars Arena, and he doesn't feel comfortable to show up to these fights yet, because the target really is this Viper, but you have to get through an SD, you have to get through this Lifestealer, and Ryze's positioning, he's sort of tanking for his team. Car's going to be a freebie, though.
Yeah, the Clockwork, still unable to really avoid those deaths. His 4th of the game here. He is every single kill that 4 Zoomers have been able to pick up so far. But at this point, it is unfortunate that he continues to die. But in that instance, I don't know. I think you're going to be okay with that one. If he's sacrificing himself to create more space for the EgoBoys cores, then overall, his worth is not really going to be commensurate with what EgoBoys could potentially gain while 4 Zoomers are distracted. As Kara is quick to respawn, he'll TP himself mid. Not really sure what play he can make, though, as that arrow will connect onto the Viper, but too far away for anything to follow it up. But it's a nice play out from Gunner to hit with that long-range stun.
And Alone is a little bit wild. He has now decided that this Ogre Axe is no longer going to be a Dragon Lance. It is going to be a first item BKB. And that is interesting to say the least. No boots of travel, no sort of greedy play. I think he just bought the Mithril Hammer to send it out. And this is sort of stamping their foot in the ground. They want to hit this blink timing on Queen Tekka. They want to have these really small items, and they're just going to run at 4 Zoomers off cooldown. And actually bottom. Don't think anything's happening, but it's just Tano defending the tower.
Able to hold that really by himself, at least for the time being, as that siege creep will fall. But before Zoomers, another instance. We talked about this a moment ago, also in that bottom lane. They brought about 3 or 4 heroes in there, didn't make a play onto Rises. Now, though, Tano is going to get hit up by the arrow. Nice play from Gunner, getting in on the back line. This should be a relatively simple kill for them, but Tano's going to make him work for it. Going in with the disruption, Queen Tekka will TP in, the Stampede will be used, and they're going to turn this into quite the fight as they will push their way forward, but there's going to be the Supernova channeling out on the back line. Alone, and Queen Tekka will try to bring it down in time. Can they get it? No, they can't. Ocean stunning them both up. Spear comes in from Brax as well, and now they might have another kill. Alone stunned up by a second arrow. He is dead. The Viper Strike is committed onto Husky, but at that point it is far too Far too
Oh.
late as Kara misses with that hook. He has the Life Stealer infested inside of him, so a big missed opportunity. And now, if you're Rises, I don't think you really even want to pop out here, although they do get eyes on Brax. Maybe they can take him down. Arrow flies from Gunner, not going to connect. Kara, though, still can't catch up, but Rises will jump out, but he doesn't get the damage with that infest. Brax is able to walk away, and EgoBoys can't make that one happen. They will lose too, and they don't get that response. That hook shot missing was so unfortunate for them.
And that really was the crucial play. They're trying to get a spear and an arrow. I don't think he's close enough on the Mirana. But at the same time, Rises was not farming during any of that. He was sitting in Kara for an incredibly long amount of time. And the four Zoomers make the call. They see that Kara has another 400 HP he shouldn't have. It's like Husky will get caught, but this is all time that Sammy Boy is just farming with a Midas.
Yeah. They find that kill on it to Husky. It's worth a bit under 200 gold there directly. But as you said, Sammy Boy, the net worth is accelerating here. The Midas is complete. The Radiance is being worked on. And we talked about how well the Centaur had been farming for EgoBoys initially, but that's not a situation that's going to last forever. Sammy Boy will start outpacing him, and unless Rises can really sort of get it in gear here over the next maybe 5 to 10, he is going to be falling pretty rapidly behind, although at this point, he's already behind. He's the lowest net worth hero in the game, so they are trying to get him a little bit more space as we see this Ancient stack being taken, but this one's being split pretty much among everyone other than Rises, as the Lifestealer sort of backed himself away. Alone and Queen Tekka will be getting the bulk of this gold.
And the only issue with this Lifestealer hero is you don't necessarily have that steroid. You will have to really earn all of your last hits in this game. And while you do have the advantage of you can just run into arrows, you can just run out of that Mars arena, you can tank spears, you can do whatever you want. But at the end of the day, if you fall too far behind this Wraith King, it's just not going to matter. He's going to out-split push you. He's going to outplay the map. And if they miss their timing, EgoBoys have really built up everything towards this BKB on Viper, and then maybe they can make a little bit more plays, but they need to find something.
We'll go for it now. 3-man smoke. The Infest is going to put the Lifestealer inside of Queen Tekka on the Centaur. They're going to try and make a move. Oh, my goodness. They missed with the hookshot again. That's unfortunate, but I think they can still get this kill. The Disruption leads into the Cog Trap. Husky, yeah, that invisibility isn't really going to help him. He should still be taken down here, but he is buying a pretty substantial amount of time. That's really not going to matter. He will still fall. No one from Four Zoomers was really coming in for a secondary engagement, but now Queen Tekka on the prowl in the jungle, trying to get onto Sammy. And they get him. They're going to try for it. Sammy Boy, though, at this point has that ult online, so he's just waiting for the reinforcements to arrive. As Ocean will jump his way in, trying to get in there with a Sunray. Sammy Boy should still be losing his first life, though, but by this point, he's all the way under the tower, and they actually don't get him.
And it's sort of the tools that they had to use. They had to use the hookshot already, and they were sort of feigning the fact that they had more heroes there than they actually did. And now, Sammy Boy, you escape, you have a Midas, you're just going to go back farming. That was a huge rotation from EgoBoys that, yet again, Rises is not hitting creeps during any of that.
Yeah, this is the pitfall that we are always afraid of with that Lifestealer. You're looking for that sort of long con play, right? You're hoping to infest into a buddy, get in there, hit the infest onto 3 or 4, all of a sudden you're turning the fight around, you're looking like the biggest hero in that fight, but if you don't get that initiation, you are quite literally wasting time. There is nothing that the Lifestealer was gaining from that extended stay inside of the Centaur. So, as you said, Sammy Boy got the blink. Does he really? Yes, he does. He's looking for it. Little off the mark with the spear. Alone had already popped the BKB, but now Kara, okay, hookshot in. This time he'll hit. Brax dropping a little bit low. Can they bring him down? Yes, they can. Brax will fall for Zoomers. Trying to fall back for now, although Gunner's going to push in for the kill onto Kara, so they do at least turn that into a 1v1. Core for support, though, for now will be favoring EgoBoys, but do we see Four Zoomers regroup and push back in? They're sort of eyeing it up in the middle lane right now, but unless Gunner hits a pretty massive arrow here, I don't really think they have too many opportunities.
And he's just pulling the creep wave right over to him. It is a little bit funny to see the map without any trees, but that's just what the Mars Arena does. We'll just farm up these creeps. They really need quite a lot of time before Four Zoomers want to take another fight. I think once they have Arena, they could maybe try the combination play again. But really, once Sammy Boy has this Radiance, we'll finally see Four Zoomers maybe get a little bit aggressive. But I guess Alone surviving there because he just has a BKB, but now this is the punishment. You don't have a BKB anymore. I don't think any vision. The perfect rune.
He tried. He threw out an arrow there, but Alone, yeah, was already invis, so not able to connect. Alone will now TP himself down bot. He's looking for a potential fight onto Husky. And they will hit him up with a Viper Strike into the poison attacks. Kara even coming in with the battery assault, and Husky will be taken down. Sammy, I don't think you want to be here right now. Multiple other heroes TPing in. It's 4 for EgoBoys in this lane, but it's 4 for 4 Zoomers as well. They're looking for the play. They don't have the arena, though, so Brax gonna have to make the play really just with the spear, and he does connect. But, yep, there's Tano in with that defensive disruption. Queen Tekka standing on the front line as well, and at this point, 4 Zoomers aren't going to be able to make a play. They just have to back off. Moonlight Shadow used defensively, but they will be able to fall back.
And it is a little bit unfortunate that every single time they want to make these plays, but again, if Tano is on point, it's just so easy for him. He doesn't even have that Aether Lens yet, but it's just the disruption. The spell is a little bit too good versus your lineup. It saves anybody who wants to get arrowed, anyone who wants to get speared. The best case scenario is that the target that they do end up going on will maybe get egg stunned and maybe play against the fact that they're put under. Oh, that was so greedy, but they got the relic.
Yeah, I mean, realistically speaking, I don't think they make it all the way onto Sammy Boy there, so they will simply take the courier instead. That delays that radiance pretty significantly, so they do buy time. That is going to be nice, but once again... Oh, hold on. Once again, the Lifestealer was sort of not farming up during a lot of that, as he was still infested inside of his teammate. However, EgoBoys able to find a kill elsewhere on the map. They're really starting to beat up on Husky here. He's died 4 times in the first 18 minutes, so he's still not a very valuable kill, but if they can continue to find that same pickoff over and over again, EgoBoys are still going to be able to extract a fair value out of it.
And finally, they do get the trade. They get that bottom tier 2 tower. It's just somewhere that EgoBoys don't want to be playing. They want to be running at Sammy Boy, and forcing Sammy Boy and Gunner to farm in the same vicinity, it's rough. They both want these creeps. They both need to finish a lot of these items. And Gunner, he has the Mask of Madness now. He finished it out just from his Morbid Mask, working towards that, well, really just the Manta style at this point. And this is where this hero does not feel great. You always feel like you can die when you're playing this Mirana, and the damage is good, but you need to get there. You need at least another 2-3 items. And again, that's sort of the passivity that I think EgoBoys are really wanting to play against, because they are so active with the way they've itemized.
Uh-oh, Gunner. Hit up by Kara. Hookshot is available, but he's not really willing to go that far in, especially with 4 Zoomers TPing forward, but here comes Husky in for the slow. Yep, he's got to go for it. Queen Tekka in with the stomp as well, though, so they've got a nice bit of lockdown onto Gunner, but Gunner's able to get himself away. He's going to turn around now looking for the Supernova. Can they bring it down? Yes, they can. Ocean will be taken down. Gunner falls as well, though, so at the end of the day, I think it's not quite what they were hoping for. Husky, though, is getting away with the invis, so they're not going to lose a third hero, but 2 down, Gunner taken away. That Supernova does not accomplish what they needed it to, and this one's just kind of broken up, and I think EgoBoys just generally walk away with the win on that as Brax. I don't know if that's a good idea. Oh, boy.
Oh, soul kill.
Very nearly had it, but now Rises is going to chase after him. Tano, okay, using the Shadow Poison on the wave instead of sort of looking for Brax in the tree line, but I think at that point they had agreed that they're not really going to go searching for that Mars any further.
And he's just going to sit in Queen Tekka, heal up a little bit. And it really did feel disastrous. The egg was in the arena. That's the big reason why that sort of fell apart. But again, the Lifestealer versus the Mars, you're always able to walk through the walls. It doesn't really matter too much. They should know that the Lifestealer is inside. Yeah. As soon as you've seen Queen Tekka with those black HP bar lines, you know that something is a little bit fishy. But they're getting a lot of speed. This is their first tier 2 tower. They're going to be able to take over that outpost. And at the same time, Zoomers have had that bottom outpost for quite a while now. But you have the outpost closer to the pit. Once you have this Deso on Rises, then it can get a little bit hairier. You have Viper. You're able to break Roshan. The Rosh isn't the fastest in best case scenario, but you will always have that sort of as a forcing move to get the 4 Zoomers to come and fight you maybe a little bit before they would like to.
Oh, well, look at that. The spear into the arrow. Good little 2-man game there from Brax and Gunner. That is the exact combo that they need way more consistently, but they at least get it there. It is a huge pickoff onto Rises. So the Lifestealer just a little bit... I don't even want to say really greedy. He's not that far ahead, but he's alone in the middle lane, not having full vision on 4 Zoomers, and he is made to pay for it.
And we also see the shard being completed by the Mirana. It's really one of the best in its class. Gives you another leap charge, gives you that, really, it's like Bloodthorn almost, where you suddenly do crit damage, you're going to start hitting incredibly hard. That's why we see him go for this Morbid, or rather this Mask of Madness, where you sort of want to focus on your central hero because of the damage output coming from that shard. But still, you're going to need to finish a defensive item. If Gunner does get sort of picked off, this is really a decent farming item, the Mask of Madness, but it still does not feel fantastic. You're going to need a lot more creeps.
Yeah, it needs to continue making space here. We sort of talked about that back at the start of the game, the fact that they were going to have to create a lot of space for him, but so far, I mean, he's building himself up. Not quite at that power spike maybe just yet, but third highest net worth here as, yeah, that's a problem. Husky caught out. Nice play in from Rises and Queen Tekka as they will be able to find that kill. And now they're pinging out the Mirana. They suspect that Gunner's up here. I'm not sure if they actually saw him or if they're just sort of taking a guess, but they ping it out, but instead of actually going after the Mirana, which they're not sure they could pick off, they'll go into the Roche Pit instead. A far more sort of, a far easier sort of target for them to jump in on.
Arrow will land on the Centaur as well, but this is very scary. If Rises does get speared, if he gets stapled, it is dying just a little bit too fast, though. I think they're a little bit too far. They're looking for the fight instead.
Too late for the leap in, but yeah, they do take the fight further to the south. They hit up onto Kara. Gonna be able to take him down. Tano now. Next up on the chopping block. Gonna get hit up by the Wraithfire Blast. That Radiance is gonna burn him down. Gunner leaping forward for the kill. So they've taken down the two supports, but they need more. Brax, though, off the mark. Blinking forward, going for the Rebuke, but by that point, the Viper is already too far away. So not gonna be able to lock him down. That's 2 kills for 4 Zoomers, though. That's gotta count for a nice bit of gold. 763 in total, but you still have to deal with the Aegis now in the hands of Rises on this Lifestealer.
And really, it's sort of, it feels like subs for nothing. You were able to, if you caught anyone with Brax, it would have been really ideal. But at that point, you don't have the best lockdown for this Viper still. This BKB is still incredibly annoying. We'll see what he decides to go for next. It looks like he has the Ags queued up on the Viper, and that will make it so hard. Because usually when we see this Viper Ags build on the core like this, it's versus heroes like Gyrocopter, heroes that are very single target, that try to get as much damage out as possible. And that is exactly what Gunner is trying to do. He wants to try and get as much damage out, but you're going to get Viper struck up. It's from so far away, the cooldown is so low, and until he gets a BKB, Gunner is just going to die. You have to be so careful. You're 1440 HP. You are not the tankiest hero in the game.
Yeah, can't exactly afford to be standing on that front line as the Stampede will come through. They're going to look for the kill in the middle lane, getting in onto the Enchantress, as Husky should be taken down there. Arrow will fly, not going to connect. Or, okay, it will, but Kara's too far away at that point, or maybe not. Gunner, he leaps forward, but he's not going to get that.
Yeah, just the Shadow Demon, so crucial. And they're actually looking for Brax bottom with Kara. They're going to wait to send a flare.
Ooh.
They saw him.
There it is. Can they hit the hook? Ooh.
Ooh, nice blink.
What a blink. Brax out of there just fine. Good attempt from Kara, but it is just that little bit better with the blink dagger play, getting Brax away, and he's actually not going to leave this lane just yet. The Moonlight Shadow will be popped, so he's still kind of hanging out, and Sammy's close enough where they could do a little sort of 2-man game for a potential kill here. Question is, who do they find? Answer, no one. Alone was close, but he's not going to charge that far forward.
And Sammy Boy, they do have the gold lead on the 4-Zoomer side. Their farm is pretty immaculate at this point, but that is just because they are farming really more on every single position. Clockwork, really, it's the difference between Sammy Boy and the core and the Clockwork and the Enchantress. And yeah, they're just all running away. They just want to keep on splitting up.
Not willing to commit for that fight, but over in the middle lane, they did get Gunner. Well, no, they didn't. They hit him with the disruption, but too many leap charges. Gunner will be able to get away. Husky, though, will be left behind. Rises and Queen Tekka do jump in onto him, and now Gunner may be getting targeted once again. Alone is going to try to track him down. Rises and Queen Tekka are pushing forward as well, but with those leap charges back up again, Gunner should be getting himself out of here. One last charge to use as Queen Tekka does get him up with that hoof stomp, but Gunner's able to get away. Smart play from Brax to save his teammate. The Supernova channeling out here as well. It's not going to complete, but they do get that kill onto the Centaur. Gunner is still alive, and now they might look to turn. Oh god, those cogs were a little bit awkward. It does allow Gunner to come in for the arrow into the spear from Brax, but unless Sammy really wants to commit for this, well, they're not going to be able to get much more. He did try to commit, but he's locked down by that Viper Strike, and now here comes Kara in with the hookshot. Brax in trouble, going for the rebuke, pushing them back for now, but Rises does not care. Jumping forward with that rage, Brax will be taken down. Gunner, can he actually get that? One more hit? Yes, he does. He does find the pick off onto Kara. A little bit low on HP himself, though, so he needs to be careful as he is going to throw the arrow. It's not going to hit onto actually anything. But Rises does get clipped by that Wraithfire Blast. Can 4-Zoomers push any further forward at this point, though? I do not believe that they can.
And the positioning from Tano, nobody is gunning for him. Nobody is going for the plays. Queen Tekka, while I believe he did go down there, is doing his job. He's sitting in front of everyone. He's the one eating a lot of these spells, and you don't even lose Aegis there. You didn't really kill too many heroes on the 4-Zoomer side. You just take away the reincarnation, which is already back up from Sammy Boy. Killing Brax does feel nice, but once he gets his BKB, I can't help but feel like there is a palpable tension that 4-Zoomers are sort of farming their way to victory. If they get a few more items here on a few of their heroes, I can only imagine the fight is going to continue to get harder and harder. The big ones as well being level 18 on Ocean. Once you get that level 3 egg, I can't imagine this game is going to get easier for EgoBoys, but yeah, they got to keep being active. They have to keep making plays.
Also worth noting at this point, Gunnar, he got himself that Elven Tunic, so all of a sudden this Mirana, well, it hits a little bit harder, has a little bit more to sort of work with evasion-wise. This Husky going to get picked off mid once again, but I don't know, at this point, 4-Zoomers are just okay with this. Husky's just going to be sacrificed routinely, but at this stage, EgoBoys are looking for a little bit more than just the one kill. They push their way mid, and as you said, this is what they need to do. They need to be a bit more aggressive. They are going to now lose that Aegis as it will time out, but they push through Husky, they push through the tier 2 tower, and map control could start sort of going into their hands if they're willing to be more aggressive. As we see multiple TPs up to that top lane, they've spotted out Gunnar. Can they actually keep him locked down, though? The Manta has already been used. Queen Tekka, though, missing with the stomp. They do have the hook shot, however, and they do hit it into the dust. That's going to catch out Gunnar, and he is dead.
Dominating streak, and you have to wonder, when will 4-Zoomers say that it's time to fight? Because now EgoBoys have sort of farmed towards their item timings, where before it felt pretty bad if you were missing out on some of these kills, but they've killed Husky so many times that it's getting to the point where every single time they kill Husky, sure, they show 2-3 heroes, but they're taking all of the farm in the meantime, whereas Sammy Boy, sure, he's farming great, he's been farming in this triangle, in this big area towards bottom, but aside from pushing in towards the tier 3 tower, and it has taken half of its HP and damage, I think EgoBoys, they're setting themselves up pretty nicely.
Yeah, it just feels like the lead for 4-Zoomers is beginning to slip away. The longer this one goes on, the longer Sammy Boy is really accounting for more and more of this slim 2k advantage. So, not really sure what the call is. If 4-Zoomers just try and take some sort of fight here, they do have just about everything back up outside of the Mirana, but Gunnar will be back in a moment.
Oh no.
Ryzes just breaks that one up completely. He's going to be able to walk away. Kara, though, okay. Hooking in. He wants the fight. Going to try and lock down Brax initially, waiting for his teammates to arrive as Alone will push forward. They're going to be able to throw down the Viper Strike. Can they actually lock any of these heroes down, though? Right now, no. Kara's dead, and Ryzes is gone as well. That was an awkward initiation. It leads into an even more awkward fight, and now Alone really can't get himself out of here. There's no TP for 15. Where can he go? He's trying to get out, but here comes Brax in with a Rebuke into the Wraithfire Blast. Alone will be taken down. Ocean, with that ult, meanwhile, way on the back line. Doesn't really do too much with it, but it's not going to matter. 4-Zoomers will still win that fight. 3 big kills off of initially what looked like a scuffed play. They miss with that smoke. They just hit up onto Ryzes and aren't really able to do a lot, but Kara kind of hand-delivers them an accidental teamfight win.
And it felt really awkward. It's always static, the rage cooldown. You have to be really careful when it's off, and it felt so easy for them to make that play. I'm not really sure why Kara baited Ryzes into going back in, as it felt like, sure, Kara goes in, he dies, it's whatever. I thought that was the sacrificial lamb play, especially after Tana was able to get Sammy Boy off of Ryzes at the beginning of that, and I guess they're going to continue to try and fight, but
no, they can't do that.
This just feels really strange.
Sammy Boy is just too big at that point.
Too. They had 4 smokes up until that point. Like, 4-Zoomers really were not fighting or taking their opportunities anywhere. And now, after what, 3 hero deaths, we've seen the gold lead increase by 3 or 4k. It feels really bad now if you're EgoBoys.
Just about doubling up on that lead experience-wise. It's a similar trajectory. What do we got win probability-wise? 64%. So, oh, okay, gonna jump up there a little bit for 4-Zoomers, but the point is, momentum has shifted here. They were already sort of leading at that stage, but we were talking about the fact that it felt like a lot of this was being concentrated on Sammy Boy. The lead was sort of starting to slip through their fingers, and if you're EgoBoys, all it takes is that one little misplay, that slight miscommunication between Kara and the rest of the squad, and you let 4-Zoomers right back in. You cannot afford to make those mistakes. And speaking of mistakes, Brax, okay. Well, that actually may have been a little bit too far forward. He gets down the arena into the stun. Tano gets hit up by it, but now Kara hooking his way in onto Sammy. That was not the greatest of ideas, as Kara will be taken down, but his teammates are at least going to be able to sort of fall back and regroup, and potentially going to try to push onto Sammy himself, but at this point the Spider Legs get him back up onto the high ground, but he is going to lose a teammate. Alone was able to get in onto the back line. Brax will be taken down. Now they turn their attention back to the Wraith King, but look at that. Supernova up on the high ground, Sunray coming out here as well. It's not actually going to stun anyone, though. Everyone on the side of EgoBoys was able to clear out, but the fight is not over yet. Rise is dropping low, needs to infest a teammate, can't get it off in time. Samuel Boy takes him down, and now Queen Tekka and Alone just have to try and bail out of here. Will they be able to make it away, though? The Blink canceled up there by the DOT as both the Radiance and that Spirit Vessel were on him. They get the arrow down as well, and Queen Tekka will not make it out. Gunner picks up the double, but at least Alone is able to TP away, but that is 4 heroes dead for just 2 going the other, going the other way, as 4 Zoomers will once again take the teamfight victory.
And it felt so awkward that they really wanted to continue that fight. And again, Queen Tekka wasn't able to be close enough to Rises. Rises, yet again, is not able to get that infest off. And we have not had very much put into this Lifestealer stock. We don't feel the power of that hero really just yet. Whereas now, Gunner, who's encapsulated the bottom lane, has just been farming up. And if you get to a point on this Mirana where you're going to be 25, you're going to have a Satanic, you're going to have a Butterfly, this hero starts to hurt. And I really don't think that the EgoBoys heroes can really stick up to that. Even Alone has sort of itemized, you have this BKB, you have this Aghanim Scepter, you have the Blink Dagger to sort of dodge around the fact that Zoomers don't have the most fantastic lockdown, but you keep on getting forced to play in sort of their arena. Sammy Boy doesn't even have a Blink Dagger, and we're still seeing the supports on EgoBoys somehow get taken out.
Yeah, that was honestly, I think something we were sort of talking about in the draft if Sammy Boy went for that Blink, but it has not been necessary so far, and I don't know, the pressure's on EgoBoys. They have to do better here as they are going to have that smoke pop. They do get in, though, onto the Wraith King, but even if they take him down once, Sammy Boy's coming right back up, and the reinforcements are moving into position. Stampede, though, will get them into the fight, but now they've caught out Kara a little bit further to the south. Brax is waiting on the arena. He will throw it down now, but he is going to get locked down by Kara with the hookshot. That immediately leads, though, into the Clockwork's death. And at this point, EgoBoys just trying to sort of fall back and regroup, but I don't think 4 Zoomers are going to want to let them go as Rises will be stunned up here. The Rage still on cooldown for about 2 seconds. Can they keep him locked down in time? Yes, they can. EgoBoys just have to retreat now as they have lost too much, and Tano actually may not be able to get out of here. He is hit up by the Sun Ray, and he's just straight up dead. Ocean grabs the double. The Supernova actual explosion is almost completely worthless as it doesn't hit onto much of anything, but they've taken down 3 once again. Buybacks are non-existent for the side of EgoBoys.
And really, to start off that fight, you keep on using the Viper Strike onto Sammy Boy, but Sammy Boy does not care. He's not the vulnerable hero that you need to be preying on. Yeah, Queen Tech is gone.
He's just getting absolutely clowned on at that point. Blinks in, but Brax was waiting for that exact moment. Blinks out from the hoof stomp, and his teammates are just there to turn it around. So, Queen Tekka, I don't know about that play. Even if you do hit with that stomp, who's there to follow it up? Kara could hookshot in, I guess. Alone would be your primary damage dealer. He'd run point on that play, but I feel like the potential benefits weren't all that significant considering the risk that was involved. He's dead for 45, and his death means the rest of EgoBoys could not contest if that Tier 3 tower went down, and now they won't be able to contest as 4 Zoomers push into the Roche pit.
And now on the Mirana, you have so much evasion, you have Elven Tunic, you have the Butterfly, now you're going to get an Aegis too. It really feels like this game has just gotten worse and worse and worse for EgoBoys, and they were already getting out-farmed. That was fine. That meant that they were using the farm because they couldn't fight. 4 Zoomers were sort of backed into a corner, I guess, in that respect, but we're very far past that point. Now it feels as if you're not able to fight and you're not able to farm, what can EgoBoys do? And they haven't used any buybacks. They haven't lost a Rax just yet, but it feels like this Lifestealer just can't hit anyone at this point. He can't beat the fight with the Wraith King. He can't touch the Mirana. And your sort of defensive lineup where you have these supports are just going in and dying instead of trying to save you because you're powerful. It feels like EgoBoys have really missed their timing on this one.
Yeah, there just doesn't seem to be a whole lot for them in terms of actual options. They're going to try to go in here onto Gunner, but this just can't happen. Rises is just looking for the farm instead, so that's an even bigger concern. Rises needs Tano to kind of babysit him and hold his hand to try and find further farm here. So, as you were saying, you're not going to out-farm this 4 Zoomers lineup, at least not right now, and as we've seen over the last couple of engagements, you're not out-fighting them either. So really, what can you hope for? You just have to try and hold the high ground and pray that there's a mistake on the opposing side as we do see that fight breaking out. Rises, though, already getting sort of pushed back from this engagement. He is looking to make his way back in, though, but as he pushes forward, so too does Sammy Boy. BKB, though, going to be wearing off for him momentarily, so Sammy will fall back. Not looking to get too far forward there, but now he's in onto Alone, hitting him up with a Wraithfire Blast. Shockwave even comes through from that controlled Satyr as they're going to try to push their way forward, but the BKB keeps the Viper alive. He will fall back, but now Queen Tekka jumping in. Ryze is popping out with the Infest play, but Queen Tekka, look at him, he's just melting. He's done. Queen Tekka down for the count. Brax will be picked off elsewhere, though, as Alone is able to find a kill, but this is just falling apart. Kara will be taken down. Byzak immediately rises. Can he get himself out? He's trying to toggle the armlet, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. Sandboy comes in, getting the Mortal Strike crit down. Rises is dead. Buys back immediately, though. But at this stage, it feels like EgoBoys are really throwing every last bit that they have into this engagement as Kara hooks into the backside of his teammate. Immediately going to get picked off as he loses his second life. Gunner picks up the triple, and now Rises is on the front line by himself. Tano and Alone forced to fall back. Sandboy, though, doesn't want to let them go. Pushing his way forward, getting the bash down into the Shadow Demon, into the Wraithfire Blast. They will pick off Tano as well. Ultra kill for Gunner, actually, as he's the one to sort of snag that final hit. But regardless of who gets the kill, it is another teamfight win for 4Zoomers. Buybacks just not in a good spot here. They will get one out from Tano, but they've already lost the middle lane of Rax. Tier 4s are under attack as well, and Tano, he may just go down again. Dropping fairly low. He is going to be able to fall back, though. Gunner, meanwhile, speaking of falling low, is dropping, but he does have the Aegis, so even if they bring him down once, he's right back up into the fight. Meanwhile, Sammy Boy trying to get damage onto the Tier 4s, but it looks like now he's going to change his target, making his way down to the bottom lane instead as they look for that Tier 3 tower.
And I really don't know how you get in without the Clockwork. That's really your big initiation. Queen Tekka needs to find a 4 or 5-man hook stop at this point, but they're not going to give it to him.
He is looking for it, though, but that Blink Dagger is sort of getting canceled out by the Radiant, so he's got to try and... Oh, okay, he's got to try and go in. He will commit the Stampede, but that is disastrous. My God. He's just blown up immediately. Sammy gets the kill, and now Tano in some trouble as well. They even get the arrow. Actually, double arrow. One went on to Rises, the other went on to Alone, so 2 of the 3 hit.
Yeah, that's it.
GG will be called. EgoBoys have had enough, and 4Zoomers, they had that winning streak popped in their previous series, but they're right back on top here with a win in Game 1.
And just at the end of that game, 7 levels in between the Wraith King and the Lightstealer. Rises, he's one of those super carries. You want to put him up on one of those heroes that are going to allow him to 1v9. And I think if they're going to pick Wraith King in the first phase, ban out all of those heroes, you need to bounce back with a carry of your own. EgoBoys can't be putting Rises on this hero, and it felt like they were going to get active, but really, that was just because their lineup was really enforcing that type of gameplay. Whereas 4Zoomers, they just farmed. They did exactly what I said. They farmed until they won. They got to dodge around. I don't even think EgoBoys got to finish their tier 2 tower off in the mid lane. It really felt like they had their timing. They were able to run, but it was almost deceptively good for them because at the entire time, I felt like 4Zoomers kept on gaining and gaining and gaining that gold lead up until the point where, hey, I'm Gunner. I've got a Daedalus. I've got a Butterfly. Time to win the fight. Yeah. Easy game.
And remember, way back in the draft, we said that mid Mirana was going to be a bit of a question mark. The question's been answered, and the answer is Gunner's pretty damn good on the hero. 17-3 damage-wise. Actually led not all players. Actually, Alone does just barely beat him out, but 36k from your Mirana there. So almost flawless play from Gunner. Actually flawless from Sammy Boy. 0 deaths on the Wraith King. So, as you said, 4Zoomers just farmed their way to victory. We thought EgoBoys would do something about it. Unfortunately for them, they weren't really able to do so. So, 4Zoomers kicking off another winning streak. It's a win streak of 1, so, you know, whatever. Technically speaking, though, they are trying to reestablish momentum. They take the first match of this best of 2, and now they have a chance to get themselves a 2-0 sweep here at EgoBoys' expense. So, if 4Zoomers can play the way that they did in Game 1, I would say that they're looking to be in a pretty solid spot. But you would assume EgoBoys will make those adjustments, try to put Rises and Queen Tekka in particular into better positions, and see if they can bounce back from there. So the Game 2 draft will offer them a shot at redemption. We'll see what it is they go for, as we are going to jump into a bit of a break here, but when we return, it will be Game 2 between 4Zoomers and EgoBoys.